So, for our last session before wrapping up this day, and I understand that we are all getting maybe a little bit tired because there's so much new information, it's so much exciting ideas and visions to think about. But we are continuing with the last session before wrapping up this day, and we are going to talk about enabling ecosystems of innovation. We have heard today a lot about the future challenges and the challenges that we are facing in the business, in the society, in the academia. We have heard about emerging technologies, and that actually puts some focus on the innovation ecosystem and how we in the best way can support this transformation of society. So often we say to our businesses that they need to reinvent themselves and they need to think in a disruptive way when it comes to business ideas. Maybe this applies to us as well. Maybe we need to reinvent the innovation ecosystem to be supportive. And I'm very, very happy to have Mr. Jean-François Balducchi from Atlanpole in Nantes, France, here to manage this conversation. And he is also the former chairman of the IASP World Association. So please give him a big hand.
Thank you, Lena. One of the former chairmen, because there is only one CEO, but there are many former president of ISP. So, but Lena, you said everything. So I was prepared to make an introduction, but no. Before calling the very distinguished colleagues that are going to be in this session, just to remind all of us, I know we are convinced about that, our industry is really going through a very strong evolution because as Lena mentioned, the innovation ecosystem are more and more complex. We have many different animals in this zoo. We have incubators, accelerators, private and public entities, clusters, innovation hubs, and so on. So what was true at the age of your birth, in '84, which was also the age of birth of ISP, it's not the same picture now. But fortunately, I think this network has allowed all of us, new and old members, to always challenge themselves to question about how to better serve their own ecosystem, either through a single science park, which is by itself an area of innovation, a concept we introduced in ISP 10 years ago, or be part of a broader ecosystem with many parks, but in the same kind of area, economic area, with a need of leadership in order to optimize and to bring the better, to offer the best service as possible to innovative companies and to our communities. So to continue and to go through examples, I'm very glad to welcome on the floor. I'm going, sorry for the pronunciation, so some I know, some I don't know. So Mattias Flodström, please. Elin Holst Granlund. Our current treasurer on the ISP World Association, Karlsson Drabe. Anders Persson. And Maria Bolin. So, as my predecessor did, I'm going to ask you, each of you, to very briefly, just explain who you are and your position regarding this issue about ecosystems. So I don't know who wants to start. Maybe you?
I can start.
Okay.
Mattias, my name is. I work at the Regional Council here in Östergötland. especially with smart specialization, where I've been from the beginning, where we did the smart specialization 6 years ago, up to today, where we have a own kind of ecosystem for developing that strategy within the areas we're strong in here in Östergötland. And I'm the coordinator for efficient logistics, who is one area in that. And we also have a group, I have a colleague in here, that we have a group who handles all the questions around the areas. I also work with internationalization in vouchers and stuff, and some in the ecosystem I also work with the Risk Capitalist Forum. Very briefly.
Okay, thank you, Mattias. Then, Elin?
Yes. My name is Elin Holst Granlund, and I'm a member of the board for Swedish Incubators and Science Parks. And I work as chief for development at Dalarna Science Park. And I work with collaboration in our ecosystem in Dalarna, with the clusters and with the academia, and to make these people meet and collaborate.
Okay, Karlsson.
Hello, everybody. I'm Drabe from Västerås Science Park, and it's approximately 300 kilometers from here, northwest from here, and also a member of the IASP Executive Board. And we work a lot in Västerås trying to build an ecosystem, trying to find out how to do the best advices to our startups and to the people with good ideas and to the small companies. And we can come back to that later on.
Yes, my name is Anders Persson and come from RISE. I'm responsible for how we from RISE work with small and medium-sized enterprises. RISE stands for Research Institutes of Sweden and consists of now a combined company of the institutes of Sweden that was previously developed by the industry. And our task, we heard earlier Ibrahim Baylan saying that competitiveness is the bread and butter for the industry. And we are tasked by his department to actually work with increasing competitiveness in Sweden. So that means, of course, working quite closely with the latest innovations. So it's Christmas Eve almost every day. I have a history from basically the lab tech industry, but also from Science Park, working in one of the science parks in Gothenburg. And one of the tasks that we now are, challenges that we have is to actually make our resource available for the companies at the science parks.
Take this one. Thanks. My name is Maria Bolin, and I'm the CEO of LEAD, the business incubator in Linköping and Norrköping. We are a tech incubator, so we're only working with tech startups coming from the academia and from the industry. Approximately working with 35 companies these days, around the year. And we've been on for about 20 years in totally. We're fully owned by the university holding company, Leo Holding. And what should I say more? We're trying to mirroring what's happening in the society in the region as well, with the, as Mattias said, with the focused regions when it comes to focusing from the academia and from the industry with the smart specialization in these areas. We're trying to mirror that as well with our companies, because we believe it will be a better ecosystem for the startups to grow in as well.
Okay, thank you all for this first words. I would like to put ourselves in the place of a company, a small, medium-sized company or a startup. Either a startup coming from the given ecosystem, okay, from the academic sector, for instance, or whatever, or a company wishing to settle in Sweden, for instance, and who is going to choose a place to go. So the challenge for an ecosystem, innovation ecosystem, is to prove that it's quite innovative, that it's really helpful for the companies, its ability to attract talents, for instance, to be and to bring the best to the companies within this ecosystem. So I would like to hear each of you about the obstacles that we could meet even in a very rich ecosystem. So, you know, sometimes when there are too many animals in the same zoo, it's a bit complicated. So could you just focus on for you, what is really, what are the key indicators for an ecosystem to show its ability to serve to better serve the companies, and what are the drawbacks, the obstacles we have to avoid? So who wants to start? Caroline?
Yes, I can start. Yes. You know, Västerås Science Park was founded in 1998, more than 20 years ago. And at that time, it was one of a few actors on the area of helping innovators and startups. Today, there are a lot of actors in the region or on local level in Västerås. And we have tried to be very clear, as most of us are founded by the state in different ways, from Vinnova, from other Swedish agencies. We try to really be clear that we shouldn't do the same as the neighbor or someone else. So we try to divide who's doing what in the system. That's not so very easy, because everyone wants to be successful as an actor on the innovation eco network. So we started with trying to build what we are calling innovation advisory organization network. And we started in the health sector, because being successful as a small company in the health sector is very difficult. So we started there, and we gathering all actors from the beginning, and it was 8 around the table, talking to them. How could we, instead of saying one door in, how could we say all doors are opened? It doesn't matter which door you open as a startup, because you will be helped to the right actor, the right organization to help you on the stage where you are. It took some time to building trust together, to find out how could we really trust each other as innovation supporters. And after a while, there were 5 organizations left, and we are now working together and meeting once a month. We need to know very much what we are doing, what we can help with, and we do it. We meet every month, discussing what's on your agenda, what's on all agendas, and how the cases in the city, in the region, how could we be helpful to the cases. And helping the cases was sometimes one difficulties on this journey together was that the new rules for data protection in the European Union, you know, how you can share what you know about people. We had tried to sort that out, and we did. So now we again can work together, everyone, and there is a very trustful feeling together with those 5 organizations. And I can promise that if a startup opens one door, they will be helped to the right advisory at that time. And it takes time, so you can't do it fast, because you have to build trust, and you also have to find out every organization taking part of this system must answer what's in it for us. Without that answer, you can't be successful. And now we are doing that we have done it on the local level, as a project owner for the big project Växtzon, that we're working together with 9 other incubators and science parks. Leeds is one part of it, Mjärdevi and Norrköping and some else. We're trying how could we do the same on a bigger region in Sweden? And at the end, we will end up with a scale-up program that is together for the middle part of Sweden. And we will do that successfully, I believe, in 2 years from now.
Yeah, that's very interesting. You mean that, in Europe, many people pretend that the best thing, the best recipe would be the one-stop shop, and you are against that. And obviously, you are successful in proving that the network, when a network works, you don't need a one-stop shop.
No, you don't need one-stop shop, but you need to get the network working. And that need someone to facilitate even your own networks. And as a science park, we are an enabler to make those networks working inside.
And Maria, you agree on that?
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, as a company, you don't bother where you are, actually, from a geographical point. And your team is distributed as well. And you would like the help to be distributed and depending on what needs do you have, and not depending on where you live, actually. So I think that helping up to open up the networks in Sweden, in Europe, in worldwide, that's what's important for us to make everything go faster.
Okay. Sorry, Anders?
Yes. Yes, well, I think I fully agree with Karin's statement here that being publicly financed, that's the only logical way to actually you have to work together. But I think from our point of view, we come from a little bit different position. We are I've been working earlier, as I said, as business advisor at a science park, and I was mainly in that role working with the commercial development of the startups and the scale-ups. Although our task is to mainly work. Our task is to mainly work with the technical development of their solutions and also testing and verification. Doing that by applied research and also testing and demonstration in our labs. And we have a fairly different business model, which means it doesn't really blend in the ecosystem naturally. So that's a different challenge from just finding networks. You have to actually invent new ways to be able to interact financially for the companies, for those that we need to help, but also to make sure that we are not, and so to say, a dangerous part to actually work together with, which is in fact the situation in publicly financed systems, that it is a little bit difficult to combine publicly financed organization and organization with a little bit different business model. So that's a challenge, I must say, but also a huge opportunity for the expertise that lies within these actors in commercial skills is something that we don't work with, and vice versa. When I was working as a commercial, a business advisor, I really was lacking both the ability and the means to find good ways to work with the technical development. So it is it's a trick, but it's an important one to solve.
Okay.
I can just agree with what they said, and I think just building relationships and being this, as a science park, being this platform, a natural platform. We are not from the academia, we are not the company, we are something between, and to guide between this between these areas. And then we have the national platform, SISP, that we can help. We cannot be expert. Sweden, as a lot of people have said, is a small country. We need to work together. We cannot be expert in every area. We need to work together and use our colleagues in the rest of the system.
Okay. So when you say that mixing different skills, different culture, what about, for instance, I'm now coming to you, Mattias, about smart specialization. It's the risk is for a company or for an academic is to remain in a silo process. It was said this morning when with the panel with the CTO of Saab and the guy from Siemens. And what is your view of your respective roles to avoid this silo behavior, this silo risk, and to encourage companies to cross-fertilize, for R&D collaboration, for instance, and maybe further for why not commercial cooperation? But first step, R&D collaboration, because as you know, very often innovation is at the crossroads of different fields. So,
a very good question. I think that we have done within smart specialization. We take that as a first example, that when we have our areas within the strong areas we have in Östergötland, we looked at how should we coordinate these areas with relevant stakeholders, relevant players who can do the most for in the end, smart specialization is for the companies. So we built this system with relevant actors within each areas. It could be from the academia professors, it could be from RISE, for instance, it could be the science park, it could be cluster within those areas. And then we have 3 to 4 meetings every year when we cross-fruit each other's ideas. We have a very good example today. We have Visual Sweden here today, who is an initiative, big, huge initiative. We have done the smart specialization strategy. We have to use different areas to combine that to be even stronger. And we have gotten recently a new initiative from Vinnova. It's called AgTech. It's also collaboration between those areas, how we can cross-fertilize our areas, not in silos. And I think if you find the relevant stakeholders or relevant actors in the ecosystem, it's much easier because companies, they don't have time they want to have a proposition, they want to have an offer, and that should be prepared from the ecosystem because from the public side, we should do that for them. And then when the process is ongoing initiative, I think that will sort out in a way automatically. But yet again, we have seen that in different stuff, we still have to have an ongoing process around it because we have to help also with another new initiatives, new process for the companies or projects within the areas. That's my answer to your question.
Yeah, thank you. I understand that. So you mean that, for instance, in your case, do you frequently use the network of science parks or as innovation hubs in order to disseminate what you have to reach more easily the companies, and so they are proximity actors, the science parks and.
Yeah, and what I mean with relevant players, stakeholders, or organization is that they have the network towards the company. We as a regional council, we don't have that network. We should use relevant players who have that network and can easily reach to the companies to talk about the offers we have. Otherwise, we're never going to reach out with the offers we have. I think we're missing out a lot on European level, for instance. We have to be much better there, and that's criticism to myself and the organization. We have to be more proactive there, to bigger funds and bigger collaborations. But it takes time, it takes money, it takes personnel. But I think that's a future thing. So to develop our areas.
Karin, I thought you took your mic.
Yes, I can say, for an example, your colleague in Västmanland, the county of Västmanland, they asked us as a science park to work with the 4 strength areas that they had found out as the smart specialization strategy for Västmanland, where Västerås is situated. That's automation, railway, it's energy and welfare and health technology. So we have for some years tried to let all actors in these areas work together, both automation companies and automation advisors by them and health advisors by them, but also not in a silo way. On the other hand, I've tried to find out, because talent attraction is the same. If you are energy or automation or railway business, you still need engineers the same type. So we tried to find out where are common things in these different areas and what's different for each branches, and tried to build networks out from the actors in the innovation ecosystem out from that.
So could you define yourself or your park as an innovation hub?
Yes, we can define us as an innovation hub, but also as an enabler to let other actors and come in the innovation ecosystem to work well together. More like a node to be the, how to say, to let them, so the system will work efficient and effectively with advices to the companies who needs that.
Okay. Is one of you involved in the DIH, Digital Innovation Hubs? Are there some of them in Sweden? Or? Sorry, I bring a new animal in the zoo, but it's a recent label, you know. It was launched 2 or 3 years ago. There was some information spread over the network by our headquarters in Malaga. And it's also interesting either for clusters or for science park or areas of innovation. Yeah.
Yes, we got that program in Sweden too. And in our region, we were very clear to say that this will be, we sat down and discussed who could take responsibility for this in our region. And that ended up that automation region, the cluster, you met Katarina in the panel before, they took the responsibility for that activity in the region totally for all, because otherwise there will be too many animals at the same zoo.
Okay. Yes, maybe on this cross-fertilization, nothing to add. Everybody agrees on that.
Well, yeah, I think I fully agree with that. The science parks are a hugely important place to meet and collaborate, and I think the also importantly is to put the companies in the center. When it comes to collaboration, it's sometimes that we should never forget who's the customer here. None of us are actually here for our own benefit. We are serving the companies. And also putting the companies in the middle is also much more easy way to understand, well, your strengths are really useful here. And that lowers the barriers for cooperation. It sounds perhaps simple, but that's actually sometimes not very oftenly practiced. So I think that's never to be forgotten.
Okay. Maria, if you are running a tech incubator for maybe some time already, so you have seen a lot of companies leaving your incubator, hopefully growing well. Yeah. Do you keep an eye on these companies, or do you rely on the science park or clusters to be still connected to them, maybe 5 years or 10 years after they have left your incubator? And then do you use these entrepreneurs to sometimes come back and help you in the monitoring, coaching, or mentoring of your tenants? It's a complex question. Sorry, it's a bit long, but I'm sure you have a lot to say about that.
It's a really good question, because we have just at LEAD, we have about 50 alumni companies that's still ongoing and growing and working globally today. And of course, you have so much knowledge within these companies and within the entrepreneurs in these companies that could help out the ones we're working with today. So yes, we do have different kind of activities with the alumni companies, both from we're having like educations for the CEOs in each new company, where we're visiting the old companies and they're telling about their needs and opportunities and barriers during the time. But we also have, like a month ago, we gathered all the companies together. So we were 45, not all, but we were 45 unique companies in one spot for 2 days, only with a mission to meet each other and to discuss common questions and to grow the network. So we do that more and more, and I think it's something that we definitely can strengthen even more. And I think that relationship with the science park to see what's happening when we say that we are finished with a company at the incubator. What's the next step? I mean, as Caroline mentioned, the Växtzone, for example. What's the next step? Do we have an accelerator that can take that next step together with the company? How can we share the knowledge within these areas? So yes, Sweden have everything to win to doing that better.
Okay, sounds great. So, Elin, everything is going very well in Sweden. So the innovation ecosystem are nearly perfect. You have maybe a view on the national point of view, being on the board of SISP. So do you still see some room for improvement or some
You have to grab the microphone a bit higher.
Yeah, so do you still see some room for improvement? And is a professional. And and do you see any threat about, that could a little bit weaken this, the strength of this ecosystem?
If we think we are finished and everything is perfect, I think we have a lot to learn, because we will never be finished and it will never be perfect. I think we all, as Caroline was talking about, it takes time to build relationships and it takes time to find these places who is doing what. So I think this is something continuing, happening all the time. So I think we have to learn from each other and learn from every one of you from IASP, from other countries, to see what can be better in Sweden as well.
Okay, so you are giving back the...
Yeah.
So, any questions from the floor? I'm sure there are. Yeah, Luis?
Yes, I have one curiosity about the situation in Sweden. Until not so many years ago, one of the core jobs of a science park, up to a certain extent, of a business incubator too, up to a certain extent, was to secure that there was a good communication, a good flow of information and knowledge between companies and their related universities. I wonder whether this is still the case in Sweden, or both universities and the companies have already somehow learned to do that, are prone to do that. They don't need that encouragement. The resistances to engage with one another have been already dissipated, and then things flow in a natural way by their own. Or do you still have that as a main job? Because in certain countries, it seems to be that parks are kind of withdrawing from that job because they say, no, that's already happening, and now we have other things to do. What's the situation in Sweden?
You look at me, Louise. I think it's a question to me. Can I start? Yes.
Yes.
I think there is still a question for us as a science park to work triple helix. I love the word we heard this morning about multiple helix, because I think what's happening during those years is that we not only communicate between university and companies and between the public sector and those three. We need to communicate with a lot of more actors on the area. That could be different actors from time to time. But we still have very different cultures in the university world. If you walk into the university, you find out why are the students, the professors and the people there, where are their goals, their aims to be there, where are the company's goals and aims. And they are still a little bit too diversified that they can't every time communicate with each other without someone in between. And I think it's very important that science parks are something in between university and companies, in between public sector and companies, public sectors and university. And sometimes to be in between, it could be a little bit, nobody understands what you're doing until you're not doing it. Because when you stop doing it, they will be very tough for those three eternities to work together. I think that's one important part, how to tell the minister that we met and other the importance of the science parks. It's being in between, but who would like to pay for someone being in between?
How about TTOs? Are you competing with TTOs then? What's the job of TTOs if compared to parks? Because they're doing the same job. Is there a redundance there? Is somebody's wasting?
Just before answering, I think TTOs, but that's the way it should be. TTOs, they are part of the innovation ecosystem. Yeah. So either there are a separate entity, or they are working well with the other entities. But if they are really in a silo process, then there is something wrong in the ecosystem.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. They are. I believe they should be a part of the system and also part of this. Organizations collaborating together to find, and don't forget the customer, the client, it's the company, the startup, and we need to build their business and growth.
I would like to come back to your question about is everything perfect? And I think we actually, now I'm being very Swedish perhaps, but I think we could be quite proud in Sweden, especially when it comes to the support given to the early companies, the startups. And there are many quite good actors in Sweden. Although I think, I'm glad you mentioned, Maria, the scale-ups, because that's something that we, as a small company in special, with lacking the huge domestic market that the big countries do, we need to be more innovative in working with this to help the companies to scale. And there are also other challenges working with for public actors with scaling companies, and that's something that we need to address more efficiently, and doing that on a national level. Combining the sort of the, again, putting the customers in the middle and combining the sharers like Scale Up Sweden and like what we could add, and being a partner in international aspects as a more understandable region, well, Sweden, than the bits and pieces of Sweden.
Yeah, you think this is one also of the strong point of the asset of an ecosystem is to be able to connect on the global level the companies and the small and startup companies, and this is not the case enough in many countries, I think. And it's a pity because all our ecosystem are very well connected. That it's the case today. We are here in Linköping, but I think maybe we don't use enough these connections to help the companies. This is your point? Maybe there is some room for improvement on that level?
Yes, there is absolutely room improvement, and meeting in these kind of meetings is definitely helping, and learning from how to actually do it, because it's but I think one important thing that maybe also needs to be addressed is when we are helping these companies, many of these companies are working in what's the word? Disruptive technologies. So there's not only a support of helping them to be making business, but also to how to be able to actually, there's a system innovation aspect in it as well. And that needs to be sometimes addressed on a more global scale. I'm speaking about rules and regulations, policy labs and things like that. And I think that's an important job for the innovation system to work with.
Mm-hmm. Other questions from the floor? Yeah, André? Yeah.
I have a question for Maria.
Yep.
I understood that your incubator is at least partially or mainly financed and run by the university.
Not only the university, it's from the municipality, from Linköping and Norrköping as well, and from Vinnova and from the university.
Okay, but it's kind of university driven. So on the other hand, we were discussing that IPR is connected to a person.
Yeah.
So what's the motivation of your universities to really run an incubator and support spin-off companies and startups and stuff like that? Because at least in Germany, it's not the case like that. It's usually the city administration or the municipality, the economic development or the Ministry for Economics that is pushing such initiatives, and it's not the academic world, the university and the Ministry for Science and Education. And this is somehow a very US or maybe Israel model that you are running. What's the motivation of your university?
They are smarter.
I would say it's not unique for Linköping. It's something that is we do have these kind of setups for all Sweden, I would say, in different portions between who owns it and not. But it's the ideas we're working with. 50% approximately come from the university, and 50% come from the industry. So we're working from both parts, definitely. But the win from the university is that it's making so much. The Linköping University is a really applied research university, so it comes up so much IP from this university, and somehow we need to make the great ideas to become reality. And if it only happens to the lab desk, nothing will happen. So you need to bring it to reality to make commercialization from it, to have it to reach everybody.
So this is kind of corporate social responsibility, or do they get motivated by, for instance, in UK, you as a university will be rewarded financially if you do so. In Germany you won't, so you won't do it. And are they rewarded financially?
The university?
Yeah. By the system as such?
No, it's not. It's not.
Really
But
their altruism.
it's. I think it's a win from the. If you're looking at competences as well. I mean, if you will become attractive as a place for the students to come and study as well. If you know that it's a future. If you come up with something, you have a future, and that's something that could be attractive for young talents. So I think it's of many importance.
I think it's a good point you raise, André, but it's we have some different examples. I'm going to take an example in France. We have also very strong TTOs recently. They are quite very well funded by the state. And universities are encouraged to go for this TTO with cash coming in very, very quickly. But when we have smart universities, it's a case I'm very lucky in Nantes, they consider they have two dimensions in their strategy. There is a short-term strategy to bring back money very quickly, tech transfer, and they have a long-term strategy in order to provide job to their students through the creation of companies that are going to be to remain in the ecosystem. And this for the university, it's very important in terms of attractiveness. And but you're right, not all universities are able to hold the two rational. Yeah.
Now, I just have to react on, you said before that we in Sweden have the perfect ecosystem, and I say, I think we have a problem today. In that way, we work with scale-ups, we work with tech companies, we work with, we own 49% of our business developer called Almi here in Sweden. They work with growth company. The gap between, we have a lot of 90% of the companies from our region are not, they're one person up to 9 person. They live their lives, they drive their companies daily basis. Whereas the help in those companies, in their growth process, they might take a longer time, but I see a tendency there that we need to discuss this also. Where do they need the help? Do they need the help to grow? Because the offer today is very focused on growth companies, high tech, scale up, and those. So we don't have. We're not. I don't think we should forget those companies also, because they are of great importance for our region.
Yeah, you're right. But and another point, I don't see on the panels.
I know. I just mentioned it.
But for instance, to accelerate the growth even of tech companies and to reach a certain level of turnover and of jobs, you need money. And I guess when we talk about enabling innovation ecosystems, that means we need some fuel in the engine. So have you got good relationship with business angels network, with VCs, with how is the Swedish investment sector doing? Who wants to say a word on that?
If you mean risk capital, or we have some risk capitalists here today. I think that's a great example. We tried 5 years ago, 6 years ago, we started this East Sweden Growth Capital Fund with, I think, at around 100 angels, business angels and risk capitalists. And we started this project that we have 2 persons working to reach out to the region's the companies who need risk capital for growth. But in the end, we saw we have on the private side, they are much better to find those companies, so we should not work to compete with them. So now they have a LEAF, they're called. They have, I think, Mattias, you have 9 people in the Business Angel Network doing a great job with finding those kind of companies. But yet again, and then we have a support who's called Invest, who takes care of a little bit before, I think, another companies who needs another seed capital in another in a more beginning of their phase. So I think for the risk capital, we are pretty much covered today in Östergötland, I think.
Okay, and so that you have regional capital investors, and they are feeling part of the ecosystem. They are considering themselves are being one of the entity.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Other questions? Yeah.
Just fill in a little bit. I think that's in the past it's been lacking a little bit the investor side and capital, and to have that collaboration with the company in early stage. You can meet them, make some relationship, collaborate. I think here the last couple of years it's been much better. But I want to just hear Maria.
I take it from the beginning, though. I think what I have seen that's been lacking a little bit, the collaboration history with the investor and the capital side, and I can see that in the whole Sweden, and I think that's a key part to get the real speed of the company. You need that fuel, and you need to build relationship, trust early on, and let the investor be engaged early on. And I think Maria at Lead has been doing a great job last couple of years with us who was missing before. So it's on the way, but I think it's we have a lot of things to do still, though.
So it was just a testimony, not a question. So, no, it's good.
How we can still be better on that, the collaboration with the investor and the companies?
I mean, as you said, Mattias, we have been doing a lot the last couple of years, but we can always become better. We have like, as part of what Mattias started with, we have this network for this region. A part of these angels prefer to look at tech companies. So Lead has today started something called Lead Business Angels, where we collect these kind of angels that prefer these companies, and of course also open up for angels coming from the entire Sweden. So in 9th of May, we have one of these demo days specifically for these angels. And 8th of June, we have the next session for more VC capitals. So we do have this organized times and places where we meet, and we can have companies meet the capital. Okay. And it's really important. And I would say what we really need now is to make it even bigger, become more structuralized, even though it's become much better. And we also need female money, capitals, because that's what we're really lacking.
Okay, thanks. I'd like to address another point before the end of this panel. It's about the, around IASP we have now more and more this area of innovation concept, and the innovation hub concept, and the ecosystem concept. And one of the lessons we learn from what we see all around the world in the network is the question of leadership. A strong ecosystem, it's an ecosystem with a strong leadership. Which doesn't mean it's someone who push on the button. It's a network, of course, but still, it's a leadership, and it's very often balanced between public strong willingness to achieve some goals, and private sector strong involvement. So it's a balance between public and private sector in order to have a sustainable, competitive ecosystem. So I would like to hear about all of you, of your conception of what do you feel? Is it in Sweden local authority driven, or state driven, or university driven, or is there any chance to have a good balance with? You have large companies here. Are they involved also in the way the ecosystem is working, or do you have foundations? I don't know. So this kind of items. So who wants to start?
Well,
Anders.
I might stick my head out here, but I mean, one of the challenges on a national level is, well, also perhaps a benefit, but it's most of the ecosystem is regionally financed and also politically driven, which means that on a national level it can be, for us, for example, as a national actor, a little bit difficult to find a balance between how to meet local demands and national demands, and also as an actor to provide help for politicals to what is the sort of information needed for how to prepare, what are the well, as an actor we also, for example, help what are the well, being asked for advice, for example, and then there's of course a difference in sometimes between local and national perspectives. So that's maybe a challenge in a country where we have quite strong regions. So we have, for example, we sometimes say we have 25 countries in the country. So that's something to be balanced. But I think we, as all the innovation system, are important for the political leaders actually to be, well, how can we advise on what are the needs for decisions and policy making?
Yes, I think that the system is driven both from the state and from the regional and local level. And that could, as you said, Anders, that could sometime become a little bit confusing, who is doing what. And then I'm back again to those networks you have to build on a regional level or a local level, so you can sort out who is doing what for doing the best for the startup companies or for the growing companies in the region or in the local area. And that's what I'm back being in between again, because we need actors that have the possibility to be in between and just to, like someone have to, like an orchestra, you need someone to conduct the orchestra, and you are still not the one who decides what the orchestra should play, because that do the musicians by themselves, but you have to conduct it. And that's why, and in some way I think it could be really creative that we work on both local, regional and national level, but you really need to know what's happening every time.
Yeah, to be more precise in my question, if I take the example of mobility, if you have, you want to or you can develop a new way to encourage entrepreneurship with regards to this field of mobility, smart transportation and so on. Maybe, probably it's a field, it is on the strategic for the government, from the local authorities, but maybe you could involve companies like Siemens, because it's interesting for them, even in the, maybe it's for open innovation process or things like that, to be also very helpful and maybe with money in helping, supporting this kind of experimentation. So this is the way I'm asking whether you can mix different source of revenues for an ecosystem to continue to innovate in supporting innovation and innovative companies. That's the way.
Well, I can say that, for example, in our we are partly funded by of public funds, but also partly, almost half by private, what do you say, being tasked by the companies to help them to develop new applied research, for example. And I think that it's a very good question you raised, because clearly the business wants to help and wants to be a part of the system, especially in the intersection between, I mean, for taking mobility, for example, it includes so many different disciplines. So you need different types of startups, solutions to the problems, and for that, the big companies are interested in financing the development of that. You see that in many different, like many of the business hubs, like you see building up. AstraZeneca is one example of that. ABB's Synelip, sorry. It's a long day today, not finding the word. But Synelip is another example. So they do fund new innovations, and I think they are importantly to be included in this system.
Yeah, Maria? Yeah.
I think that they've been mentioned earlier today, but the IGNITE collaboration within Sweden, today it's globally as well somehow. I mean, that just giving a direction that we would like to increase the collaboration between startups and corporates, and then a part of us going together and saying we're doing it this way and try out, have been really successful. I mean, in 3 hours in a really small office, we had 44 meetings. Try to do that some more effective, and still you can get a question from Vinnova that they try to control every small detail when we're trying to get money for these kind of projects, and trying to steer us in minutes how we should do it, even though we have showing up we can do this, give us the direction and we just run. So I think we need to dare to do more like that, to give a direction, give people the opportunity to run, the money to work, and then we just do it.
Mattias or Elin, you want to add something to conclude?
I think you said very good things, but I don't know if I'm answering the question, but we heard today, like, the collaboration between companies, and for instance, the Science Park, we heard Siemens say that it's a very relevant platform that they have Science Park to collaborate with, so they can have companies maybe into them and exchange between each other. So that's a very important forum, I think, and that should be, how do you say it, should be more increasing, to invite different types of companies also to increase that kind of collaboration. But we don't have to forget that it's also a balance with the eco-innovation system also, that a lot of the actors out there are depending on projects. From the region's perspective, we want to secure more that these kind of functional organizations have a stability to be more competitive and not going for projects to keep their economy going. So this is for the next structural funds, it's very important that we raise that kind of questions. How do we keep those kind of strong, relevant platforms so they don't have to chase so much for money and be more and more effective towards company? So I think that's a very important thing.
That's good. Elin?
I can just agree with what they have said. I think it's...
Okay, the last question before I give back the mic to Elin, because the time is running. No? Okay, thank you very much. Again, a big applause to our panelists.